I was going to be on a charter flight. The charter flight was supposed to go from Yerevan, Armenia to Frankfurt and then to Boston. However, the plane had contraband on board. When that happened, I realized that I was going to miss my son's engagement party. If I missed that engagement party, which was in New York, what else might I miss?
Welcome to the Inside Forbes Councils podcast. Each episode shares transformative insights and advice from members of Forbes Councils, a group of invitation-only communities for successful executives and entrepreneurs. This is Inside Forbes Councils.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Inside Forbes Councils. I'm your host, Stephen Ganoza. I recently had the pleasure of interviewing Sharon Weinstein for our video series, which you can find on YouTube. Sharon is the author of B is for Balance, as well as a consultant, coach, and keynote speaker. She shared with me some lessons and techniques that she learned from having her life very much out of balance, something that she has now clearly since corrected. We'll still post a shorter version of this interview on the YouTube channel, so be sure to check out and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can find that at youtube.com/Forbes Councils. But since YouTube videos are fairly short, I'd like to present, without any further ado, my interview with Sharon Weinstein, author of B is for Balance.
My name is Sharon Weinstein. I'm a certified speaking professional and a fellow of the American Academy of Nursing. I live in the Rockville, Maryland area, and I've been working in the field of work-life balance in that space for the past 12 to 14 years.
What's been the trajectory that brought you to where you are today?
Before I discovered balance, I was working 2 weeks out of every month for 12 years in the new independent states of the former Soviet Union or in Central and Eastern Europe. In general, 100 hours a week, 3 countries per week, out of a tiny 43-meter apartment in Moscow, Russia. It was during that time, when I was working all of those hours, that I started to think about, well, my kids were getting older, they might get married, they might have children. What was I going to miss in life? And eventually, that's what happened. I was in the Republic of Armenia, and I was going to be on a charter flight. And the charter flight was supposed to go from Yerevan, Armenia to Frankfurt and then to Boston. However, the plane had contraband on board, and the contraband was not drug related. I would have understood that because in my prior life, I had taught intravenous drug administration. Not a problem. Contraband was a pound of butter, a pound of sausage. And when that happened, yes, that was contraband in that day and time. When that happened, I realized that I was going to miss my son's engagement party. If I missed that engagement party, which was in New York, what else might I miss? And I started to realize that I was having an aha moment. I needed to get a life if I was going to have a life. And at that moment in time, I decided right then to shift my paradigm, shift gears, and start to think about what life might be if I could be in balance.
Wow, that's amazing what a pound of butter and some sausage can do. But so you had this aha moment on the plane. I presume that you missed your son's engagement party.
I also missed the plane. We weren't even on the plane. We all went back to the hospital to work for 4 more days, and we were able to leave the country 4 days later. That is why I missed the life event.
So was that it then? Did you call it quits on that gig right after that?
Well, it wasn't so much a gig. I was doing some humanitarian work for the State Department, and I just decided that I would go back home and reinvent myself. So I had done a lot of work in terms of should you retire, should you retire, all of that is part of balance. What I decided to do was to go home and talk to the person who had subcontracted with my company for me. So for my company, I directed the Office of International Affairs for a significant number of U.S. hospitals, partnering them with their foreign counterparts all over the world. They subcontracted me to USAID, and for them, I worked the former Soviet Union and in Central and Eastern Europe. I went back to the person who was my contractor from USAID, and I said, if I form an LLC, will you contract with me for me instead of them for me? And that's exactly what I did. I formed an LLC and did my own consulting group. And then I also formed a not-for-profit that would allow me to continue some of the good work that I had done in developing countries, do it on my own time and travel maybe twice a year instead of twice a month.
Got it. So you weren't necessarily looking to leave that line of work. You were just trying to bring your own life into balance a bit more.
Exactly. I wanted my time. Yeah. Time is a precious commodity. I wanted mine back.
In finding balance in your own time, did that decrease the effectiveness of your work?
Not at all. I found that as a result of doing it my way, I had more energy, more enthusiasm, more appreciation for what I was bringing to the lives of others. And they too valued my newfound energy, my ability to get things done within a certain number of hours, and then to move on and do what I needed to do for me. Think about it in terms of self-care. Self-care is not selfish. It's strategic.
Okay, excellent. So let's go into, how do you do that? Like, what do you tell your clients? What are your best tips for finding this balance or achieving this balance?
Okay, I started out, I was a prolific author, but most of the books that I wrote were about how to administer intravenous drugs, IV solutions, chemotherapy, and blood. No one seeking balance is going to seek that sort of a book. It was highly attractive to nursing schools and to medical schools, but not to John Q. public. So I decided that in order to build a presence for myself in that space, I needed to write a book. My first book about balance was called B is for Balance, A Nurse's Guide. Why? Because I come from a nursing background and that was my immediate audience. But after 2 years, when the publisher asked me to write a second edition, I said yes, with certain contingencies. Number one, I had to expand it. I had to increase the potential audience. I had to increase the page count. And I had to make it attractive to everyone, everywhere, in every walk of life who has ever at one time or another worked an extra shift, worked odd hours, had a circadian rhythm disorder, traveled too much of a road warrior, the first responders, and everyone else who has ever been challenged by time. When I wrote that second edition, it won first place in consumer health in 2015. That made me and my topic incredibly attractive. So I started to speak about that topic to audiences large and small, to offer workshops and lunch and learn programs and others for some of my clients. And one of the things that I do with them is to first start with a self-assessment. Where are you in terms of sleep, hydration, rest, self-care, time for yourself? How do you define what is your passion? What's your purpose for being here? What's exciting to you? And most of my workshops are built upon those 12 chapters because the book is called B is for Balance, 12 Steps, Creating Balance at Home and at Work. So I go through that series after the first assessment, and basically I work with people through what I call a balance scorecard. We identify where their losses are and why they're tired, why they're fatigued, why they just don't give 100%. And it's usually because they're not taking care of themselves. And then we determine ways in which to meet and exceed those expectations.
So you also mentioned in research a 5-step approach to achieving balance.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
5 steps, aside from the fact that you're going to do an assessment and get a scorecard. Number one, you need to know your limits. How do you know your limits? You need to surround yourself with positive people, not the people who drag you down, not the people who make you feel badly about yourself or your work. So know your limits in terms of what you're willing to give, how much time you will give, and under what conditions you'll give it. I tell people that it is okay to say no. No can be a complete sentence without additional qualifications. Not, my grandmother died last week, because how many times can the same grandparent die? However, in today's situation, right? Today, kids could have multiple grandparents. Some of them have 4 and 5 sets of grandparents. But in reality, you cannot just keep making excuses. The idea is to know when to say no. Second step is to recognize the need for help. You need to know when you need help. You need to know when you're so exhausted that you cannot go on for another moment. You need to know when you need a decent night's sleep. You need to know that you can burn the candle at both ends until you're about 35 or 40. But after that, a message comes from your brain and says, hey, what are you doing to me? Give me a break. So it's recognizing the need for help. The next step is knowing how to seek it, not being afraid to seek. Often we work with people who are in businesses that are dependent upon referrals. They might be medical, they might be legal, they might be accounting. They might even be something like photography or videography. So if I book with an independent contractor and that individual gets sick or depressed or even stressed out or heaven forbid suicidal, what's going to happen to my contract with that individual? It's those individuals who need to know how to seek help. They need to know that being an independent contractor is not going to control them to the point where they cannot function. Now, when you're an employee and you need to look for help, that's easier. Often there's an employee assistance program or some other wellness program at work or some other resource within the community, self-help line, something that will allow you to get the help that you need. And then communicating the need, not being afraid to ask. I always say, if we don't ask, we don't get. So you need to share with those within your circle, those within your workplace, perhaps with those within your family. I need help. I need a break. Is there somebody who can relieve me for 2 hours and watch my kids so that I can have a little downtime? I'm so overwhelmed and stressed out with screen time and challenges and fighting. Or in my workplace, I'm surrounded by so many toxic people that I just need 1 hour to go do my thing, even if it's putting on a pair of running shoes, leaving the office and going out for a walk in the fresh air, even if it's just hydrating, even if I've spent so much time on a computer screen that I'm getting foggy and I can no longer concentrate. Taking a break, closing your eyes for a minute, taking a glass of water will rehydrate and shift that paradigm and make you feel much better. And then finally, becoming resilient, being able to recognize what the challenges are, face those challenges, to be unstoppable, to push through and to rise back up. Those are the 5 steps.
Excellent, excellent. So, so now a lot of those 5 steps are, they strike me as sort of reactionary to a bad situation, right? Like you're saying, you're overworked, you're overstressed, you've run out of excuses to sort of defend yourself because you feel the need to quantify that no. So there's that aspect of it. Your story about the plane and missing your son's engagement party, it's very tangible, like something's out of whack here. On the flip side, how do you know when you've achieved balance? What are the signs that you've got it all together and you've made it?
Well, there are 2 things there. Number 1 is, how do you know on the flip side that you've done it? But number 2, what steps can you take? And perhaps that comes first to ensure that you get it. So in addition to the steps that I gave you, there might be things like making sure that you get 7 or 8 hours of sleep a night, making sure that you're well hydrated. And that does not include coffee and tea. It includes just plain water. It does not include, as a matter of fact, it excludes soft drinks, energy drinks, and other things that really deplete your energy stores and bring you down. It requires you to be able to decide how many hours a week you're going to work and then to stick to it, and to take only 15 minutes a day for self-care. If it's going for a walk, if it's taking a break, if it's taking a breather, if it's moving to a small area of the office or your workplace where you can just have respite time with soft music and a quiet setting, where there are no computers and no devices that are going to distract you. You're going to have the opportunity at the end of that day to go for a walk or to exercise or to go to the gym before work or to do whatever it is you need to do, even if it's read a book, practice yoga, meditate, but do something for yourself. And then how do you know you've been successful and how do you know you're there? You know it. You know it because your passions become alive. You get greater success in the kinds of things that you're going to do. Your time seems to fall in place. And rather than sit there and say, are my 8 hours, 10 hours, 16 hours, or heaven forbid 24 over? And can I finally go home? Instead, you're saying, I've done a great job today. I'm not going to take work home with me and commingle my home space and my workspace by spreading my work all over my house. I'm going to have a designated work area and stick with it. And if I do need to bring something home when I'm with my family or with my partners or with whomever I am, I'm going to be present in the moment. You can feel it. You can feel it because you're actively listening to the things they're saying to you. If the kids are telling you about their homework, you're on 100% and you're paying attention and you can repeat back what they said. I remember a time years ago when my kids told me, and they were adults, and they said, we're not going to talk to you anymore, Mom. We're only going to talk to Dad. And I thought, what's that all about? Why don't you want to talk to me? And what they said was, they could hear me while I was talking to them, typing 150 words a minute in the background, knowing full well that I was doing my multitask and not concentrating only on them. So they quizzed me. They were smart. They still are. They said, repeat back to us everything that we said. And I could repeat it word for word. I was able to repeat what they said and respond to it appropriately, but I still wasn't giving that 100%. Be respectful of those around you, and that's how you'll know. You'll see it through the gleam in their eye, smile on their face, active listening, and the opportunity to really be tuned in, to really pay attention at the end of the conversation, to have an incredible sense of satisfaction and awareness, makes you feel good about being that best version of you.
I can say that I personally have some work to do in this area, but I appreciate all your tips and advice. It's great stuff. It's something I know for me personally to think about, and I'm sure for many people who will watch or listen to this as well. How can people learn more about you, your business, your book? Tell us where to go for more.
My company is called SMW Group. That's S for Sharon, M as in Mary, W for Weinstein, Group, LLC.com. We have programs and services related to coaching and consulting and speaking, including speaker training for those who want to pursue a career in that direction or even fine-tune or hone their skills. In addition to that, I have a speaker website that is simply SharonMWeinstein.com. On both of those sites, you can get a copy of any of my books, and there's one on negotiation, there's one on balance, there's a workbook on balance. They will take you to the Amazon bookstore, and you'll be able to purchase it right there. In addition to that, you can follow me on any of those blogs. I have blog content that comes out on a regular basis, and I also blog for ShareCare. So there are multiple sites. And finally, the publisher of my book, B is for Balance, 12 Steps, dedicated a singular website only to that book. So on the site, bisforbalance.com, there are all kinds of tips and techniques related to balance, as well as, again, a monthly blog.
Okay, excellent. Definitely some stuff to check out. Sharon, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. This has been great.
The pleasure has been mine. Thank you so much.
To recap, 5 steps to find balance: know your limits, recognize the need for help, know how to seek help, prioritize health, and practice resiliency. I want to say thank you to Sharon Weinstein for sharing her thoughts. Be sure to check out her book, B is for Balance, and we'll see you on the next episode.
This has been Inside Forbes Councils. Please be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're a member of the Forbes Councils and would like to participate in our podcast series, please email your member concierge. If you're interested in joining a Forbes Council, learn more at ForbesCouncils.com.